I'm here today with Mr. Devashish Majumdar, Chairman and Managing Director of IRIDA. So thank you for talking to Panchbhuta.
Thank you very much.
Can you please tell us a little bit about IRIDA and your vision as the Chairman and Managing Director?
Let me start with the history of IRIDA. Why was an organization like IRIDA even required? We have a very robust banking sector, very mature banking sector. There is no dearth of money to lend, but yet 25 years ago the government had the foresight to realize that to develop renewable energy, one of the major barriers that could come in the way would be lack of financing, in spite of having a banking sector. And the reason is very simple. No banker finances an unknown animal, and renewable energy 25 years ago was an unknown animal, and maybe even now after 25 years it's still an unknown animal. So you require a specialized organization who can understand what renewables is all about, what are the risks involved, how do you mitigate those risks and still lend money into that sector. And that is how the specialized organization was created. Now, having said that, I must say that we have fulfilled our objective very well. We have been able to showcase successes, and we have really brought India onto the global map for renewables. And this would continue, because there will be new sectors in renewables, there will be new technologies in renewables, there would be new policy dimensions in new renewables, and all these would require a specialized understanding of how to lend to that sector. So in terms of vision, I would only say that the way we have been growing at about 30 to 40% CAGR would continue for the next 5 or 10 years, and then probably things would plateau off.
IRIDA has been in existence for about 25 years now, and you have been the pioneer in financing renewable energy, as you just mentioned, in particular wind energy projects. Could you elaborate how the funding of wind energy projects has matured over the...
Yeah, this is actually a very interesting thing, because 15-20 years ago no bank would touch a wind project even with a barge pole. But the transformation of wind sector actually started in 1993-94, when the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy came up with a policy, or rather a guideline to states, to give a preferential tariff for the electricity generated through wind. Not only was it a preferential tariff, it was also a tariff that had an inbuilt escalation per year. So there was a 5% escalation on the tariff every year. So this became a good driver along with the accelerated depreciation benefit. So what really happened is that there was a guideline which was available for investors to see that, well, this is what I'm going to get as revenue for the project, as well as the accelerated depreciation benefit, which could help them in their tax planning. So these two factors started getting some investors interested in setting up wind projects. From there, of course, it's been a very long and very well documented story, because from accelerated depreciation we went to accelerated depreciation projects, slowly getting into GBI. There were CDM benefits, so projects started getting clubbed with CDM benefits, which was a very new subject. And again, that is where IRIDA plays a role, because no banker would have financed those projects with CDM benefits, which they never understood. So IRIDA came into the picture. So the CDM benefit plus AD, then GBI, the generation based incentives, and now the renewable energy certificates. And I think the story is never ending. It's just going to expand exponentially.
So as the wind sector grows and evolves in India, it's moving from large individuals to large captives and IPP customers right now. What kind of services does IRIDA provide for those kinds of stakeholders?
See, the basic service that we provide is that of a catalyst, because as I said, the policy framework changes, the regulatory framework changes, and it is these changes actually that is driving the market. Because if the policy doesn't change based on the requirements of the market would become stagnant. The good part is that in our government The government is very receptive to the need of the market and therefore bring about policy changes. But whenever this happens, the banks are at a loss. A commercial bank would not be able to follow the repercussion of such a change or such a framework, a new framework. And therefore it is very important for IREDA to be the first mover. And in each of these steps of policy evolution, you would find, if you look back at history, that it is IREDA who has started financing the first few projects, shown the success stories, and therefore got bankers interested and thereby creating a larger market. So what I would say, that the biggest service that we have done to the wind industry is to help create those first mover projects with financing, which a commercial bank would not have done. So that is how the market has grown. So our service is knowledge, our service is understanding, our service is hand-holding through those difficult periods during new experimentation with policies, and that is what goes a long way in creating the market.
So probably a lot of that also means risk mitigation and understanding risk.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, because we always have to understand the risks better than the commercial bank. The banks always come in when they perceive lower risk. So the high risk part of it, the lending, is always on the shoulders of IREDA.
So what kind of funding mechanisms does IREDA provide to IPPs, and how are they different from commercial bank structures, for example in terms of tenors, in terms of interest rates, in terms of repayment?
See, by and large funding, whether it's from a bank or from IREDA, would be more or less similar. But where we differentiate ourselves is, number one, as I mentioned earlier, to even give a loan. When there is a new structure, nobody would give a loan. So IREDA gives a loan. That's the first differentiator. But in terms of structure, we have been looking at it more practically than probably many commercial banks. You take agriculture for instance. See, agricultural loans are very specific loans that the bank deals with. Banks give agricultural loans based on cropping season and when revenues would actually accrue to the farmer. And wind is no different. Wind is also seasonal. Wind is like, you're going to have a season of wind, there will be no wind season, but payments have to come constantly, which is not possible. So therefore we have devised structures where, just like the way banks handle agricultural loans, we structure repayments based on what the wind generation is likely to be. So these are very new things that we have introduced into the market, and these have gone a long way in making things happen. We have also sort of encouraged people to move over from accelerated depreciation to generation based incentives by offering rebates where generation based incentive is the method of financing. And that is because we give a half or a quarter% rebate on our interest rate, provided there is a GBI. So it sort of moves people away to a newer method of market development, and so essentially these are the sort of things we do. Sometimes our the tenors are longer, depending on the viability of the project. But very importantly, we structure our repayments based on what is the likely generation from season to season. Instead of having a EQI or an EMI, it is very well structured.
IREDA has looked at a number of innovative financing mechanisms in funding wind energy projects, including structure of repayments based on wind season, which you just mentioned, and generation. Could you also elaborate on how you're planning refinancing? For example, you talked about 80% of the loan being paid, you allow for securitization of the balance of the loan. So those kinds of other structures?
We have introduced securitization structures basically to free up more money for equity infusion into new projects. And what we only do, very simply, as a layman's description of what we do, is to examine how a project is functioning, what is the revenue generation, how much is required for debt servicing, how much is balance. Obviously, if a project has gone through half of its lifetime, let us say, its debt service requirements would have come down. So it has more surplus money. So we securitize that money, and against that we give a fresh loan, so that they can pump it as equity for a fresh project. So it helps reinvestment, not really refinancing, but it helps an existing entrepreneur or an existing corporate to free up money for equity infusion into newer projects. And that's what we would like. If somebody has experience in wind and he thinks it is a good business, he needs money to infuse into new projects, we are providing that.
Can you talk about the role of IREDA in the GBI mechanism? You briefly mentioned that you do provide with a rebate, but what else does IREDA do, and what has been the experience in terms of GBI so far, the learnings, and what can we take forward?
GBI, let me first explain that in a sense we have played a very important role in the entire formulation of the policy. The policy on GBI was done firstly on a demonstration basis for a small 49 megawatt sample, and the success of that sort of encouraged the ministry to open it up totally to all. Now, what we have learned is, number one, that GBI as an instrument provides a field for serious investors, large scale IPPs to really come in and perform. It provides them that incentive, because number one, it gives them a benefit which they otherwise would not have got, because as an IPP they wouldn't have the appetite for depreciation, and so the accelerated depreciation model wouldn't work for them. And here is a system by which they get something that is generation based, so performance based, improves the efficiency and so on. But the GBI scheme, like any other scheme, nothing is perfect, so things evolve, and we have been helping in getting the developers' worries and problems across to the ministry and acting as a facilitator to sort out all these issues. And that is how today we have an online system, so no developer really has to even talk to us to register his GBI projects. The formats are all very clearly given on the website, so with minimum human interaction they can apply for registration, they can apply for claims, and it all happens more or less automatically. We have, I think, by now almost registered more than 2000 megawatts of projects under the GBI scheme, which shows the great success, and we do hope that the GBI scheme continues. We are going through a little bit of a confusion on that, but I do hope that it continues, so that the wind market development on the GBI basis goes on at the same pace.
In terms of financing of wind farms and wind farm projects, over the period of time, have you seen an increase in the capacity of wind farm projects that are coming to you? Are the sizes of the projects becoming bigger? How are the projects different? I mean, is there more work being now done in terms of P50, P75, P90? Are developers becoming more aware? Earlier, I know you were the ones that used to educate them regarding this. Now with IPPs, is that shifting a little bit? Are IPPs becoming aware of it themselves?
Tremendously, not a minor shift, it's a major shift. I mean, 15 years ago, I think the average wind farm size that we used to fund would be 1 megawatt. Today it is 100 megawatts. So there's a tremendous difference at the way you look at those projects. A 1 megawatt project, you are absolutely right, the investor wouldn't even know what is wind or what is P50 or P75. Today they are all aware. They are, one is by experience and the time that passes one learns. But then when we talk of IPPs, the difference between an investor on the AD side and an IPP is simply that as an IPP he has to improve the efficiency of working. So he would look at every possible area where efficiencies can be better, where he can generate more, where his downtimes would be less, and therefore it becomes a much more scientific, well engineered, well managed projects with a tremendous knowledge base that goes in there. So there has been a shift both in terms of knowledge, in terms of technology of course, and in terms of the understanding of projects, to make them work better. So there has been a tremendous shift in the right direction.
Are there any considerations to raise funds through the issue of tax-free green bonds?
Funds is extremely important for development of any sector. But fortunately, as I said earlier, there is no dearth of funds in this country. What is required are low-cost funds. So I'm glad you raised the question of tax-free bonds. But tax-free bonds or otherwise, the low-cost funds that IREDA accesses is mainly through multilateral and offshore funds, which are specifically meant for the lending to the renewable energy sector and to wind sector. So that is one thing, and we have plenty of that tied up. The second thing is that as far as tax-free bonds are concerned, there are tax-free bonds that the government has, every budget they declare. In fact, in the current year, there is a 10,000 crores that has been allotted for the power sector, of which we hope to get a part. So that would be available as tax-free bonds that IREDA would issue for green financing.
So what are broader IREDA's fundraising plans, given that 12th plan proposes to 29,800 megawatt of grid interactive renewables and 3267 megawatts of off-grid generation capacity?
Oh, we would have a major challenge in raising funds, but fortunately the ministry, who actually are the 100% equity holders of this company, the owners of this company, also are fully aware of that fact. And in fact, in the 12th plan, we expect a huge equity infusion into IREDA of the order of 5,000 crores, which will enable us to raise many times more than that, up to 10 times more from the market. We may also go in for an IPO. I mean, all the 5,000 crores may not come from the government, but they would allow us to go in for an IPO. So an IPO would bring in again money. So we are not worried about the money part at all. We have the right support from the government, and with that support, we can raise money in the market manyfold. So funding is not going to be an issue either from IREDA or from any bank.
As the Indian wind energy market leads the growth globally and financing requirements grow multifold, what do you have in terms of other platforms that IREDA can provide, not just to national but also international stakeholders?
We are, firstly let me tell you that in our whole series of firsts that we have done, we have also been the first in encouraging projects with 100% FDI in the wind sector. And you'll be happy to know that by now there are more than half a dozen projects which are large projects, 100% FDI financed by IREDA. So that is one thing, that one platform that we obviously provide to a foreign investor who feels much more comfortable in dealing with an organization that knows the field, that understands the suppliers here and the local problems, and therefore guide them, because to a foreign investor this is all unknown territory, and they don't know what the risks are there on the ground. So they always feel comfortable in coming to us, and we equally help them out. Apart from that, we would also like to over a period of time look at opportunities that lie in surrounding countries and maybe in other developing countries. And so that is a long-term thing. We have not really finalized our plans on that, but we do see an opportunity in developing countries around India where we could play a role in financing or maybe even consultancy.
Given that there's a tremendous focus now in the Asian countries and in Africa, and already I think from a technology standpoint we are providing assistance, maybe IREDA can teach them and guide them in terms of how financing can also be brought about in developing countries where cost structures are similar to India rather than maybe Europe or the North America.
Absolutely. That's why I mentioned consultancy, because I think our contribution there would be more in terms of knowledge, dissemination, because they can definitely sort of have a quick learning and by not having to reinvent the wheel, where we can tell them all the learning processes we have gone through, both through our successes and failures. So they can therefore accelerate their programs, and the knowledge base we have in that would be quite invaluable.
Thank you, Mr. Majumdar. It was indeed a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.